you for the introduction. Thank you everyone for being with me this afternoon. We've had a lot of great presenters. So we'll go ahead and get started. Pre-employment transition services, we refer to it as Pre-ETS. So what is pre-employment transition services? So in 2018 in Arizona, we started providing the 5 services that you see on the screen. We are focusing on job exploration, work-based learning, post-secondary counseling, workplace readiness, and self-advocacy. And I missed the first bullet. So the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act is requiring all vocational rehabilitations to set aside money to provide these 5 services. So I'm mentioning this just in case we have any other states with us today. Every state is required to provide pre-employment transition services. So when I am referring to Pre-ETS, it is the 5 services that I have listed on this screen. A little bit later in the presentation, I'll give you some examples of the different workshops within these service categories. So next, now that we know what Pre-ETS is, those 5 service areas, who can receive Pre-ETS? Any student in Arizona between the age of 14 to 22 with a documented disability enrolled in an education program is eligible for this free service. So let me break that down a little bit more. So any student that has an IEP of 504 or a medical or psychological documentation from a licensed professional, they can receive this free service. Now, the other eligibility requirement is that you need to be involved in an education program. So this can be your traditional high school setting. It can be a charter school, private school, a GED program, the detention center, our post-secondary programs, trade schools, university, community colleges. So as long as you meet that criteria, 14 to 22, with a documented disability, enrolled in an education program, you can receive this free service. So we're really targeting all of the potentially eligible students in Arizona. You do not need to be a VR client to receive the service. However, we do hope that after receiving Pre-ETS services, that you apply for full VR services, because working with one of our counselors, you will receive that individual plan for employment. So Pre-ETS is a program within vocational rehabilitation, but we are just introducing the 5 topics to students in the hopes that down the road they apply. And now VR clients can also receive the services as well. But we're really just wanting to make sure that all students in Arizona are familiar with these 5 service areas to help them to really start thinking about life after high school. We're also wanting to make sure that we are targeting some of our underserved population, so our tribal and our foster students. And it's exciting to seeing the work that the Sonoran USET is doing with the work-based learning. Previously, Rosa was mentioning the work that they're doing over at Window Rock. We've also had some of our Pre-ETS providers providing work with the Hono'odam in cells. So we are wanting to make sure that we are targeting some of our underserved populations. Next, where can Pre-ETS take place? We can pretty much provide the workshops anywhere in the community, anytime throughout the year. We also learned through the pandemic that we can do things virtually. So we see a lot of success when our Pre-ETS contractors are partnering with the high school, because then the workshops are taking place during school hours and we don't have to worry about transportation. But when the availability on campus is a little bit of a barrier, we can also provide the workshops out in the community, even at the local community college, at our VR office, or again, virtual. Some key points with Pre-ETS. Pre-ETS was designed to be short-term, general in nature. So what we are seeing is anywhere between 2 to 4 workshops per service category. Again, this is just an introduction to what we can offer with vocational rehabilitation. but the workshops are anywhere between 2 to 4. They really try to tailor the workshops based off of what the student needs. And again, this workshop and the services are targeting are potentially eligible. So in Arizona, there's already over 42,000 students in Arizona that just have an IEP. All of those students could receive our services. Our VR clients can receive the services. Now, also keep in mind, if you're working with our Tribal VR Vocational Rehabilitation Office, Tribal VR does not have Pre-ETS. So there's no duplication of services. You can continue working with your Tribal VR counselor and also receive Pre-ETS services through State VR. Workshops are done in a group setting or in an individual setting. So how do you access Pre-ETS? So if you just do an internet search, you can type Arizona Pre-Employment Transition Services, and it will take you to our website. On our website, you will see our request form. It will have a flyer of pretty much just the basics of what I'm going over today. So I don't expect you to memorize everything that I'm going over today. Go to our website. You'll have the flyer, you'll have the request form, and the list of providers or contractors that can do the work. The information is also available in Spanish. So on the website, you will see our request form, and this request form does need to be filled out front and back. So I'll go over this right now, and it's basic information. It's just your name, your address, the school that you are attending. And then in the center of the request, you'll see that there's those 5 service categories. You could select all 5 of the Pre-ETS workshops if that's what you need. Or let's say that maybe you are a college student and you are just wanting some additional help with maybe post-secondary counseling. Maybe you need some additional guidance with scholarships. Whatever you need help with, go ahead and identify that on the request form in the center of the request with those 5 service categories. You will need to select a contractor. So on the next slide, you'll see the contractors that are listed in Arizona to provide the work. You will also need to identify, it is a requirement, the gender and your date of birth. You'll notice that you do not need to identify your social security number. Our team within Pre-ETS can move forward without having that social security number. But now keep in mind, working with our VR office, working with one of the counselors, they will need that information. So if you provide it ahead of time, that will definitely help the local office when working with you. We have a section for the race ethnicity. This is also a requirement that we need through vocational rehabilitation. You'll sign it, and if you're under 18, your parent will sign it, or if you have a legal guardianship, they will sign it and attach the documentation. So as I previously mentioned, we have Pre-ETS contractors that are covering the state. We have 20 in Arizona that can provide all 5 of the Pre-ETS workshops. And so I'll just give you a minute in case you want to take a screenshot, a picture of all of our contractors. These are the agencies, the vendors that would be doing the work. And I also want to point out that you'll notice that the Sonoran USED is not listed on this slide. However, we do have a special agreement with the Sonoran USED, and they are focusing right now on the work-based learning. But they can also provide all 5 of the Pre-ETS workshops for any of our tribal and foster youth. So going back to the request form, now we're going to the back of the request. And if you remember from eligibility, you have to be a student and you have to have a documented disability. So on the back of the request, we need to have the disability verification. And you can provide this in one of 3 ways. So the first option is the school is filling this out. The school is identifying that you have an IEP or a 504, and they're signing it, and that's all they have to do. Or let's say that you're working with the local VR office or your tribal VR. They will just mark this and identify your disability as an IEP, 504, or eligible for our services. But let's say that you don't have the verification from the school. or you don't have the verification from Voc Rehab, no problem. You can also attach a copy of any of your documentation that proves the disability. So a copy of your IEP, copy of 504, proof of SSI, SSDI, or the medical or psychological documentation. So Arizona, we have 15% that we need to spend down. So we want to make sure that we are providing the services for all students that are requesting the services. So we don't want to make any additional barriers. Once we receive this request form, within 30 days, we want to have services up and running for our students. So that was the basics on Pre-ETS. And now I want to go over what the workshops look like. So job exploration, let's hope that the video works. And this video is off of Explore Work. And let me include the closed caption, yes, play.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Has anyone ever asked you that question? Have you ever thought about what you want to be? How are you supposed to know the answer to that? I mean, sure, everyone knows about teachers, doctors, and police officers, but what about all of the other jobs out there that you might like? In today's world, there are so many options. You have choices. So, where do you start? How do you know what work you might be good at? Finding out the answers to these questions is called career exploration. It's about understanding your strengths and interests. Career exploration is also about discovering what job or work you may be good at. Doing this can help you figure out what education you need, what skills you need to learn, and give you the confidence to reach your goals. Let's get started on your journey to find out more. As you travel along the road to your future, you will explore your strengths and abilities, uncover what type of work you are interested in and what your options are, discover what kind of education or training you need to reach your job goals, find resources and tips to guide you, and gather some ideas for next steps. Now let's get started.
Okay, so I like adding videos so that you're not just listening to me speak. So under job exploration, what our contractors like to do is provide those career assessments, helping our students to identify what their strengths are, what they're interested in. Is there going to be a career path available for them? What does the labor market look here in Arizona? So just doing some basic exploration with our students will then help our contractors with the work-based learning. And under work-based learning, our contractors are trying to match what the students' interests are to actually have some of that volunteer, some of that job shadowing out in the community. So recently I was able to shadow one of our Pre-ETS contractors, and they took a group of the students out to a ranch. The students were interested in working with animals. So instead of going out to your traditional humane society, they were exploring just different options for people that are young adults that are interested in working with animals. So our contractors just tried to find the work experience, the job shadowing, based off of what the students are interested in. And the next topic under Pre-ETS is also the post-secondary counseling. So this is really helping our students to explore all of the options out there, the trade schools, the universities, community college, military, apprenticeships. And once they've identified all of the options that are out there, they're also going over the registration, the application, the timeline, and also going over some of the financial aid information and scholarships. So there's all sorts of different topics that can be discussed under post-secondary counseling. And again, this is ExploreWorks website.
Finishing high school is the first step to creating the future you want. You might be thinking you want to go to college or technical school after high school. You might be thinking that you want to start earning money right after you graduate. You might be thinking, I have no idea what I want. Whatever your goals in life, learning will likely be a part of your future, whether you learn in a classroom, get training from an employer, complete an internship, or any number of ways to learn. Education is important. It can help you get the job you want, make more money, feel a sense of accomplishment, give you independence, help you meet people like yourself, and get a better job. In this lesson, we're going to explore how learning can help you reach your career and life goals. Let's get started.
Next service area under Pre-ETS is the workplace readiness, and this is helping our students with some of the soft skills, time management, professionalism, communication, helping them to build their resumes, prepping them for interviews. And so last year at the Department of Education conference, we did a workshop with our young adults, and we were doing just a workshop on the workplace readiness and preparing them for an interview, in person or virtual. And actually, in the next slide, we have some advice from a peer, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to skip this next slide in the video because the closed captioning, it does not exactly translate correctly. And because of that, I am just going to move on to the next slide. There's a word that's inappropriate, so that's why I'm like, that did not translate right. So the last topic under Pre-ETS is self-advocacy. And this is really helping our students to identify their disability, maybe even using the JAN network to get some self-awareness, to understand their rights and responsibilities, and also knowing when to ask for these accommodations. So we're hearing from all of the schools in Arizona that this is a topic that they are really not focusing on. So this is something that within Pre-ETS is very important. It's also helping our students to recognize all of the community agencies that can support them, including vocational rehabilitation. Last video.
Welcome. Let's talk about self-advocacy. Let's go over what it means and how we can do this for ourselves and others. Self-advocacy means figuring out what you need and asking for what you need. But most importantly, it means standing up for yourself. We all have things that we need help with, like when there are things we cannot reach. We all need help sometimes, like with reading and understanding things and working on projects. When you learn to speak up for yourself and others, then you are an advocate.
And that was it regarding pre-employment transition services. On the slide is my contact information. If you would like additional information on pre-employment transition services, or would like to discuss how you can request the services, or even just get more information on our contractors, please reach out to me. And I'll leave a little bit of time in case there's some questions. Doesn't sound like we have any questions, so thank you for being with me this afternoon, and we hope to see some new Pre-ETS requests coming through.